I'm Allie Craig, and I'm traveling across the country to fix the heartbeat of the modern economy, the entrepreneur. Entrepreneurs are like no other business. It isn't just about selling a product or a service, it's about selling the experience, the relationship, and speaking to the social stories that hold the hearts and subconscious minds of our audiences. And it's these fledgling brands that must be designed as much for their audiences as it is for their authors if they're going to break the statistics and make bank. Having fixed countless brands over the last 20 years and worked with hundreds more entrepreneurs, founders, and startups, I know that I need to do something radical to get these brands and their founders back on track. Because in this age of social media where everyone is a critic as well as an instant expert, your business and audience can boom or backfire overnight. If I have any hope of saving these brands and transforming their businesses, I have to get these entrepreneurs to embrace the experience they are really selling and escape the mindset that all they are is just an offer. Hey everybody, this is Allie Craig and welcome to Fix My Brand with Allie Craig. And today we're talking about bringing your brand offline and yes, into the real world of life. Because guess what? You are your brand. People will see your brand or should see your brand, not just via your website. And to help me have this conversation, the amazing Amy Loken of Mood Modular.
Thanks for having me, Allie. I'm excited to be here.
Well, Amy and I met a couple of years ago. We were trying to figure out how long. We won't tell you how long because we really couldn't figure that out. 5, 6, 7 years ago. Yeah. And we actually met at an event because for being an entrepreneur, events are really a huge part of not just growing your business, but also growing your own personal knowledge.
Oh, yeah.
So guess what? If you're going to go out and grow your business for yourself, make sure your brand comes along with you. And I do mean more than just a business card.
Absolutely. I mean, after all, I do believe we're viewed in a 360, and I know you feel the same way. So
first off, let's talk about Sylvia. So Sylvia, founder of Becker Hill Women's Empowerment School. And I love Sylvia's vision because Sylvia is all about actually not just having an online school. That was like one of the things. She's like, nope, brick and mortar. And so though the goals are 5 to 7 years out to actually have a location in California,
takes time.
In the meantime, there's a great way for Sylvia to actually start doing in-person trainings and actually bring a little bit of her school with her. So this is why I love Amy. So Amy is the founder of Mood Modular, which if you haven't ever seen Mood's products, you will notice that they're not boring. It's not a pop-up banner. And more importantly, grab that one. It's totally interactive. So for Sylvia, my whole thought about her brand is that these pieces consolidate up and fit into a simple, normal luggage size suitcase, basically.
Yeah, it's literally all of this came in two display cases.
Yeah, like
that were just
simple,
checked.
normal luggage. But to be outside the box and how to actually show her school and that experience. So when you're creating an experience in the real world of life, it still needs to be interactive, people.
Absolutely.
And so for Sylvia, what would you suggest if she wants to actually bring her school into the real world? Like she's in Rome, she's in New York, she's going to these events and she's doing trainings. How would you suggest that she could bring a little piece of the Sylvia Becker Hill Women's Empowerment School to those cities?
Well, if she looks at this as we talked a little bit of a vignette, so to speak, and really give that feeling of actually being inside that actual space that she is envisioning, regardless of however long out that forecast is for it. They can actually start to experience it and start gaining that enthusiasm that's actually going to be a part of that physical location.
And take some of her branding elements now, because she has a very architectural style brand, and start replicating that in the real world. So that way it's a little snapshot, a little taste of what really is to come for her audience.
Absolutely. And if she's doing this all over the world, she could have, Sylvia Hill,
Becker Hill Women's Empowerment School.
Thank you. There, but she could have, Rome location. These could be, in one type of, architectural branding, and then she could flip them around, have them in a completely different wrap for the next place. So she's still carrying her same theme, but identifying which location they're actually at.
And the biggest takeaway I think people need to realize when it comes to taking your brand from online and into the real world is you gotta think outside the box, people. You can't just expect to go online and be like, Google, what's the best, sign or visual? Because the pop-up signs, the pins, all that kind of merch that you see that are trade show-ish merch, no one wants. No one wants that.
No one wants it because that's not how you're going to fully really interact with that person in a live setting either.
And so I just think it's smarter to create a true experience, however that looks like. If it's purchasing a product that's customized and beautifully branded, or just thinking outside the box for your brand in the moment, for whatever in the world your budget actually ends up holding.
Absolutely. And we developed this product because I do believe we're viewed in a 360. And why not get that added value of everything and be able to truly customize it all depending upon who you're in front of, so you're speaking directly to that audience.
Which is so key, especially when you're a speaker. So Talmor Anderson, that's one of her big goals that she came in with and she's actually living, which is really being a speaker in front of all these stages. And we all know, if you've ever done speaking, yes, you have your signature talk, say that with air quotes for sure, but everything is still modified for your specific audience that you're talking to. And so please, for the love of all things holy, do not do PowerPoint. If someone asks you to do PowerPoint, run away, because you can't actually create enough PowerPoint slides. Basically, you need a PowerPoint slide for every 15 to 30 seconds that you talk. That is how fast you have to move PowerPoint slides nowadays to keep your audience's engagement. That's thousands of PowerPoint slides, people. But when you can create a real world experience for people where they can come and you can talk about your branding, and like you were just saying, customize your message based off of what you're actually speaking to.
Absolutely. So a lot of times when I speak, I often have my slides on actual magnetics, set them up, flip them around when I'm getting ready to speak on them, and then it really becomes interactive. Because if you really want to put your audience to sleep, throw up a PowerPoint slide. It's the immediate thing. It all happened to me in doing a Prezi, because I didn't want to do that PowerPoint, had a display off in the corner, walked over, grabbed a graphic off, came back and placed it someplace else, and I turn around and the entire audience did not leave, their eyes did not leave me the rest of my presentation because I did something different.
Well, and if you can break the mobile phone gaze of someone looking at their phone to check their email in a presentation nowadays, that's amazing, because that means you actually have not just people watching you and paying attention, but high potential for conversion.
Oh, absolutely. And then you can write on everything and turn them into dry erase boards, so then you can actually interact with your audience as if you were interacting with them on a one-on-one level.
And number one, how much more interesting, but number two, how much more showing your social proof, which is the whole reason why we're doing a speaking presentation, is to show social proof that we are the expert, you need our help, you need to hire me, and all of that. And if you can be like, what's your question? And actually, okay, let's work this out. Let's go right here and figure that out. It's just a smart solution that's out of the box.
Yeah.
And if you haven't yet caught the theme of today's show, guys, you gotta be out of the box. We're out of the box with our brands online. You have to translate that to your brand in the real world as well.
Well, I think that's kind of interesting. Just a side note of that whole in the box aspect is I think we put, in today's society, I think we're constantly putting people in boxes. So yeah, I give you a box, but we also show you the thousands of ways to think outside of it too. So don't put yourself in the box. Really think about how you're going to stand out within your message and your brand, regardless of whether you're at a speaking event or, walking in somebody's brick and mortar.
So, and let's talk about authors, because everyone's an author, including our amazing Lisa Rahurk. She actually released her book last year, the RFP Success Book. And one of the great things about being an author is that's a way to get you in the door. If that's at a trade show, at a networking event, for a speaker, they want you to do a book signing, because it gives that event a reason to have an experience, a reason to get their audience together. But we all know that the classic table, 6 foot, 8 foot table is normally the spec. You know, the classic drape with a pile of books is going to do what?
Absolutely nothing.
Exactly. So you have to create a multi-dimensional piece. And so for Lisa, you know, when she was actually going to an event last year, I was like, okay, if you can't talk to Amy because of time, I said, then this is what you do. Rip the table, rip the drape, get a round table. So we found her a pub table online, stack your books in this way, have a chair there, and make it a 360 experience, just like you like to talk about.
Absolutely.
For so many reasons. Number one, it's inviting. You have to invite your audiences in. I mean, that's the whole point of online. Your whole online presence, we're talking about your website, your social media, is about creating little snapshots of what it's like to work with you and inviting them into the next level. When you have just a solid table in front of you, or you're behind a table, if this is at a networking event, you're doing a book signing, guess what you're saying? We have a barrier that you have to cross. That's not what you want to say. That's not the subconscious cue you want to create. But creating out of the box ways where people can come and join you. Join us over here. Let's talk about, oh my gosh, look, here's my book. Let me grab a copy of it for you.
Exactly. Explain how you're going through the process of whatever it is you were writing about, or what your expertise is. It's really it's removing that barrier. And then if you rise up a little bit, I understand you have to sit, but for the love of God, please don't sit low. Start meeting people at their eye level. It's much more engaging.
It's more engaging, and it's better nonverbal communication. Far too often we forget that nonverbal communication still exists. It's still the main way that we actually communicate in person as well as online. So FYI, you don't get away from it. But when you can, like just with Amy, when she went over there to spin the little spinner, what did I do? I started to go, yes. So what am I doing? I'm saying I'm engaged with you. I'm also then saying I'm more interested in purchasing from you. I've created a subconscious cue for myself that says, I want to have what Amy has. So I'm going to be more interested to talk to you about it and find a solution for us to work together.
Absolutely, because bottom line, your customers and clients aren't flat, boring cutouts. So why should your marketing displays be, or your branding in general?
Exactly. And so you have to be willing to think outside the box, think what works for your brand, and to find the solution that works best for you, even when you're doing social media. Yes. Okay, guys. Let's get real about those bloody curtains y'all all have behind you in your social media videos. You've seen them, right? They look like curtains. We know they're curtains, and I just think you're in your bathtub. Stop buying the bloody curtain, right? I mean, what's social media for? Social media, especially when we're doing lives, it's supposed to be a mini speaking engagement. So it's supposed to be a mini, like, I'm your expert. Are you the expert with the curtain behind you?
Exactly. No. You couldn't get a little more creative than that?
So be creative. And we totally get space in houses. Sometimes it doesn't happen. But I love seeing people who have your product because, Amy has created the most craziest things. She's created chairs and thrones and all this stuff. But I love seeing people who have your product who have this behind them because it's not super deep.
Nope.
And it's just a fun way where they can be like, oh, here's a dry erase board. And they tear it down and they're probably in their dining room. But we don't know that. We think they're in this great, fabulous, professional space.
Absolutely, and that's the key. I mean, one of the things is either people try to find the whitest spot in their home, or the cleanest wall, or does my library look
your library never looks good, really.
And it doesn't, because what happens is people then get distracted off of you by looking at your children's pictures behind you or whatever, or what books you actually have listed there, which is great, but you're missing out on a piece of branding opportunity there.
And once people see a photo, a picture, a backdrop, that wow factor, it's gone. So that's why I always warn the brands when we've just done photo shoots. I'm like, be careful what you post on social media, because once someone has seen you in that environment, they assume they already know what you're going to talk about. So especially if you're someone who's like Cassandra, who has more of a lifestyle approach on her brand, or like Gina, where you talk about multiple different topics to one specific audience, if you're in the exact same location time and time again when you're doing these social media posts, your audience is going to assume they know what you're talking about, and you never want your audience to assume such a thing.
No. Especially today, because everything's coming at us in nanoseconds.
So I love statistics, you know me. And so when I started to do branding 20 years ago, we would rebrand every 6 to 7 years, and we're down to 4 to 6 months. But how fast does it take to make a first impression now?
Less than 2 seconds.
Yep. When I started, the reason why my business is named 3 Impressions is because it used to take 3 seconds, and we have actually lost a second. Like, that is how fast our brains are being trained to not take in information. It's just that quick.
Absolutely. And as much as none of us want to admit that we make snap judgments,
We all do.
Yep, they're finalized in under 30 seconds.
And it's statistically harder to change a negative first impression. So if someone's going to label you, because guess what, they are going to label you, I think it's the smarter branding choice to choose the label that you want for yourself, and then that way they don't have to come up with it.
Absolutely.
So takeaways for making a positive impression, in-person impression, because you work with events and doing lots of events yourself. What's one thing anyone can do, no matter if they're a networking event, speaking, they're a trade show person, that they can do to make a positive first impression?
Remember, you're being seen in a 360, and that can be from any angle. And it's usually done before they've even made eye contact with you or have heard your voice.
Always from across the room.
At least 30 feet away.
Yep. So how can someone, because one of the worst things I think people have is the dreaded, what do you do? Question. Do you have a good takeaway on how to answer that? Or if you get scared because you're like, okay, I'm going to do the trade show, I'm going to do the booth, but I'm scared to talk to people. Do you have a trick on how people can kind of get out of their own psychological way?
Well, first it's removing all those barriers.
Yes, please do. Please open space,
get
people.
rid of those barriers. You want to imagine, even though brick and mortar shopping seems to be flailing a little bit, it's still out there. But there's a psychology about that. So creating that experience and that serpentine type of feel, which is why all of our product is in a 360, because we want you to experience it. We want you to ask questions and not be afraid. And a lot of times, if you do step outside that box and look a little different from everybody else there, you're going to automatically get that attention that you so desperately seek without actually having to do a whole lot. Now, yes, you can build it and they will come. Scenario may not happen, but at least you've removed all those barriers that is going to hold people.
Well, and it's always better. So I always tell women, if they're really nervous about networking, wear an amazing necklace, wear a great pair of shoes,
Absolutely.
or have a handbag. The 3 things another woman will comment on instantly, especially if, even men will comment on your jewelry. They know better. They know like comment on that's a safe thing to comment on. But when you're doing a trade show experience or a speaking experience, anything where you're really wanting people to come to you, take everything out. And even if the venue people say, we can't remove it, fold that table up and put it in the corner,
Absolutely.
ladies.
I've done it 1,000 times.
Because it is better to have no barriers and be like, let's have a conversation. Sometimes I've just put a rug down and put 2 chairs and just let's just sit. And sometimes at the end of the trade show, especially big events, people are just tired and so they just want to sit because of their feet. Great. It's a captive audience.
Fantastic. Have a seat. Let's have a chat.
Have a seat. Tell me about your business. What are you doing?
How was the event today? What did you like? What did you didn't? All those things. I mean, you're just having a conversation with somebody.
Exactly. The beginning of a relationship, the simple conversation. That's what we're trying to do with our brands online. It's what you should be doing with your brands offline. And that is how you actually create an amazing, engaging experience. People don't really want what your logistical product or service are. They want that connection with you. It's fundamental to who we are as humans. Use your humanness to your advantage. Put some neurohuman branding into your brand, and more importantly, engage with your audience.
That's what it's all about.
Thank you so much, Amy, for sharing your amazing product with us, and also, more importantly, sharing how the brands can use interactive experiences to take their businesses from offline and into the real world of life.
Well, thanks for having me, Allie. It was fun.
Well, guess what, guys? We have another amazing episode for you guys next week where we're going to catch up with another amazing brand. So see you then.